From the moment American aircraft began appearing in large numbers over Europe, the balance of power in the skies started to shift. What had once been contested airspace, dominated by German fighters, gradually transformed into an arena where American organization, technology, and endurance asserted themselves. This transformation did not happen overnight, but when it did, it changed the course of the war in a way that Germany could no longer reverse. At the start of World War II, the German Luftwaffe was one of the most experienced air forces in the world. Its pilots had fought extensively across Europe and were trained under an aggressive doctrine that emphasized quick interception and decisive engagement. German fighters such as the Messerschmitt Bf 109 were well suited to these tactics, combining speed, agility, and effective armament. For a time, this advantage allowed the Luftwaffe to maintain control over large areas of European airspace. When the United States entered the conflict, American airmen faced a steep learning curve. Early operations revealed both strengths and limitations. American fighters were reliable and well-built, but many lacked the range and high-altitude performance required for sustained combat over Germany. Rather than relying solely on individual combat prowess, American doctrine focused on coordination, discipline, and systematic pressure. This approach would prove decisive as the war progressed. Aircraft such as the P-40 Warhawk and the P-39 Airacobra played important early roles, providing valuable experience and contributing to air defense and support missions. However, it was the introduction of more advanced fighters that began to challenge German confidence. The P-47 Thunderbolt represented a major step forward. Powered by a massive engine and built with exceptional structural strength, the Thunderbolt could operate effectively at high altitude and withstand significant damage. German pilots learned that engaging American fighters was becoming increasingly dangerous, as these aircraft were not only well-armed, but remarkably resilient. Despite these improvements, a critical challenge remained unresolved. German fighters exploited the limited range of American escorts, waiting until they were forced to turn back before attacking bomber formations. This tactic inflicted losses and allowed the Luftwaffe to remain a serious threat. Solving the problem of range became essential if the United States was to gain lasting control of the skies. The arrival of the P-51 Mustang marked a decisive turning point. Originally developed in response to a British requirement, the Mustang reached its full potential when equipped with the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. This modification transformed the aircraft into one of the most effective fighters of the war. The P-51 combined speed, maneuverability, high-altitude performance, and long-range capability in a way no other Allied fighter had achieved. For the first time, American bombers could be escorted deep into enemy territory and protected throughout their missions. The impact of the Mustang was immediate and profound. German pilots could no longer choose when to engage. American fighters were present from the moment bombers crossed into hostile airspace, maintaining constant pressure and denying the Luftwaffe opportunities to regroup. The efficiency and reliability of the P-51 forced German units into continuous defensive operations, accelerating the depletion of aircraft, fuel, and experienced personnel. American fighter tactics evolved in parallel with these technological advances. Escort missions became proactive rather than reactive. Fighters patrolled ahead of bomber formations, intercepted enemy aircraft early, and controlled key areas of airspace. This strategy reduced bomber losses and disrupted German defensive planning. The skies over Europe increasingly favored those who could sustain long-term operations, and in this regard, the United States held a decisive advantage. Training and organization played a crucial role in this outcome. American pilot training programs emphasized consistency and scalability. Pilots completed combat tours and were then rotated into instructional roles, ensuring that hard-earned experience was passed on to new airmen. This system allowed the United States to maintain a steady flow of capable pilots throughout the war. In contrast, Germany struggled to replace losses. Experienced Luftwaffe pilots remained in combat continuously, leading to exhaustion and a gradual decline in overall effectiveness. Behind every American fighter stood an industrial network unmatched in scale and efficiency. Aircraft production, engine manufacturing, fuel supply, and maintenance infrastructure operated as a unified system. Losses could be absorbed and replaced, strategies adjusted, and operations sustained without interruption. Germany, constrained by limited resources and increasing pressure on its industrial base, could not compete with this level of output. By 1944, the results were unmistakable. Fuel shortages grounded German aircraft, and newly trained pilots lacked the experience to challenge increasingly confident American formations. Allied bombers operated with reduced losses, and ground forces advanced under the protection of friendly skies. The Luftwaffe, once a symbol of German military strength, had been largely neutralized as an effective fighting force. The defeat of the German Luftwaffe was not the result of a single aircraft or isolated battle. It was the outcome of a comprehensive effort that combined superior strategy, technological innovation, disciplined training, and overwhelming industrial capacity. American fighters secured control of the skies by maintaining constant pressure and denying the enemy the ability to recover. In doing so, they reshaped the air war over Europe and played a decisive role in the Allied victory. The story of how American fighters defeated the German Luftwaffe is not just a tale of machines and pilots, but a demonstration of how preparation, coordination, and sustained effort can change the course of history.
As American fighters tightened their control over the skies of Europe, the air war entered a phase Germany could no longer reverse. What had once been a contest for initiative became a sustained struggle for survival for the German Luftwaffe. American squadrons were no longer reacting to enemy movements. They dictated when and where air combat occurred, steadily eroding Germany's ability to operate freely. Escort missions evolved into an aggressive strategy aimed at denying airspace to German aircraft. American fighters patrolled ahead of bomber formations, intercepting enemy units before coordinated attacks could form. This constant pressure disrupted German planning and forced Luftwaffe pilots into repeated engagements that drained fuel, aircraft availability, and morale. Aircraft performance played a decisive role. Fighters such as the P-51 Mustang demonstrated exceptional efficiency over long distances, combining speed, endurance, and high-altitude capability. This allowed American pilots to remain over enemy territory far longer than German fighters, which increasingly suffered from fuel shortages and maintenance limitations. Organization and adaptability further strengthened American dominance. Combat lessons were rapidly analyzed and shared across units, allowing tactics to evolve quickly. Escort formations and interception methods were refined continuously, while German forces struggled to adapt under growing resource constraints. Industrial capacity widened the gap even further. American production ensured a steady supply of aircraft and spare parts, allowing losses to be replaced without interrupting operations. German units, by contrast, faced shortages of fuel, equipment, and trained pilots. By the final stages of the war, American fighters had secured full control of the skies over Europe, shaping the outcome of the conflict through organization, endurance, and air superiority. Airplane. For more real stories behind historic victories, subscribe.